Hello, everybody. Welcome to Inside IIM. My name is Oshin, and today with me, I have this individual who made the scary decision of not joining IIMA, which is a place a lot of aspirants dream of being at. So, in today's conversation, we're going to learn Nikita's story and see what she's up to, why she made the decisions she made, and try and learn from her whatever we can. Before that, I want to share with you that the CAT preparation journey that Nikita has had could also be of a lot of value to you, and that's why we're going to talk about it as well. Then we'll go to her journey, and then we'll take up any and all questions you might have for her. Before that, another bit is these live conversations that we do for you. It's more like a place for us to help you engage with people who you might not be able to talk to otherwise. And so whenever you're sitting and watching a live, it's more like you play it on and you relax and you listen to us, not like a instant gratification or instant response kind of place. It's more like you sit, play it on, ask a question, you'll get the answer, and then like, do other things in the meantime, maybe clean your room or something. So, anyway, I'm just going to ask, without further ado, ask Nikita to say hello to everybody. Nikita, if you could just tell a little bit about yourself, although we know enough, we think, but still, whatever you'd like to share.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am Nikita Warkar. I am an engineer and I'm an engineer. I had 95% in 10th, 86% in 12th, 99.44 percentile in CAT. That would be the typical introduction that we schoolers are used to.
Right, got it. And so where did you do your engineering from, Nikita? What was your undergraduation like?
Okay, so born and brought up in Nagpur, I did my engineering from there itself, from Sri Ramdev Baba College of Engineering and Management. I did my engineering in electronics and communication. And post that, I decided, let's switch. Time to pivot.
Okay, got it. And then you did your CAT prep, you scored 99.44 percentile, got an admit from IIMA, made your decision. So let's just break down this journey into chunks. You were an engineer, wanted to do an MBA, nothing unusual about it, but because you studied and prepped really hard for it, the question for you is, what inspired you to prepare for CAT with such commitment? What was the intention behind your CAT prep and all of that phase?
So basically, like, it was actually an impulsive decision. I'd be honest. It wasn't something very well thought of. Just one day, randomly, I decided that I don't want to go ahead with the thought that was inculcated in my mind by my parents. Ki, oh, you'll have to be the first IS officer of our family. Like, one fine day, sitting at crossword with my best friend, I decided, you know what? I feel like I am more of an MBA person. I can be a better manager, so let's just try that out. And the next day I was just sitting at this with this admission counselor and taking admission in one of the coaching classes, and that's like my decision was done in one day.
Got it. So, and when was this? You must be in your final year when you decided?
No, actually I was in my third year, second semester, so that's like sixth semester.
And when did you decide to join the coaching?
Oh, yeah. So I knew that one thing I was sure of, that I needed a coaching, because like such competitive exam preparation needs a lot of discipline and structure to your approach. And I knew that if I had to do it by myself, I would just go over the information on the internet and consume information which I might not even know is legit or not. And hence there wouldn't be any structure to my preparation. So I knew I had to join coaching classes. And I also knew that I had to focus on academics, because I had kind of screwed my acads in the initial years. So I had to focus on that and prepare for CAT simultaneously. So that's why I decided to join coaching a year before the CAT itself. Like, exactly, I joined in December and the CAT was in 24th November. So that kind of helped me. It gave me the luxury to actually take a break from CAT prep and focus on acads when I had my exams, or even go on vacation and take a break. And so that luxury actually was something that really helped me.
Right. And often when we think of CAT prep, when somebody shares they prepared for 1 year, people tend to think it's like complete 1 year preparation they did. This must be so rigorous, and it could be rigorous. But I think what we often discount is that people who prepare for 1 year often take breaks in the middle. So it's not complete 1 year preparation; it's less than that, but more than, let's say, a 3-4 month of course preparation.
Yeah, but like, to be honest, that helped me a lot, because there were certain circumstances that came in between, and had I not had a year to prepare for CAT examination, then I don't think I could have done this well.
So now that we're here, Nikita, I want to ask you, how did you, so the last thing I remember from our previous conversation was you telling me that you used to solve questions and you used to solve all the material that your coaching would give you, so much so that you exhausted the entire material they gave you and they had to give you more. So what was your mindset when you decided to prepare for CAT? Did you think of it as an exam that's going to require a lot of actual problem solving and that's how I'm going to score? How do you think, what was the kind of preparation you needed?
So actually the point there was that I didn't know what was needed. So I just kept on doing whatever I got. So they gave me the material, and I was like a very studious, diligent person who will attend every classes owing to my FOMO. Because I just didn't want to miss out on anything, because even if that was a concept that I knew very well, I felt there would be that one small point that would be told in the lecture that would be useful in the final examination, and hence I wouldn't miss any class. So I would attend classes diligently, do homework, be a very studious kind, sit on the front bench. So that was the kind of stuff I did there, and hence because of that, I exhausted the material according to the schedule that they had given to me. And I did not have any benchmark as such. Like I didn't have seniors who were like prepping for CAT, and or like there were a few, but not anyone who was in an IIM or anything, or anyone that I knew of. So I was all by myself, and those the faculty from that coaching institute. So they obviously would want you to solve a lot. So they would say, do all this. I was like, okay, I'll do all of that. And then I would just keep on doing that. And hence, because I didn't have a benchmark, I just kept on doing whatever was told.
Right. And that of course that helped. So at this point we have two live questions as well. Karan is curious about your approach for mock analysis, and Samir is asking, is Arun Sharma enough for preparation? So we'll go to the mock approach in just a minute once we know how you went about the basics. So Karan might have to wait. About Samir, it's a quick question. Do you think is Arun Sharma enough for preparation?
So I did use Arun Sharma, though I was like recommended not to. But eventually, when I exhausted all my material and I was like, I need something to practice, so I just took Arun Sharma. And what I did was, like, I had completed all the concepts and everything. So I just took the LOD one and I put a timer, and I ensured that I was solving all the questions in like minimum possible time, like 20-30 seconds per question. And I just did LOD one of all the topics. So that was done in like 1.5 weeks, and that was the only time I used Arun Sharma. It was a good like a revision kind of thing, wherein all my concepts and formulas were revised. So that's how I used that book. It's quite a good book.
Did you say 1.5 week?
I just did the LOD one.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Okay. So Uday is asking for tips for IPMAT. Have you taken the IPMAT by any chance?
I have not. My brother is actually preparing for that right now.
So we'll invite your brother for the next conversation if that's what helps. So then there's also Karishma asking, how was your preparation strategy during the last 70 days? How about we talk about the first 70 first and then go to the last 70?
Yes.
So I'm going to just give you a quick structure, Nikita, because our audience is curious. They already have questions. Let's first talk about how you started. And please keep in mind that our viewers might be in the last leg of their preparation. It's September already. So whatever you think could be learnings helpful from your first, let's say 4 or 5 months that you think can be applicable now as well, please start with those, and then we'll take it forward from there.
Okay, all right. So when it started off, there was this really great structure that people at my coaching institute followed, wherein initially they did extreme basics, one run of extreme basics of all the concepts, and then we picked up each topic and went to the tests. So with that, I knew exactly what the syllabus was. I had a proper overview of what all the CAT syllabus entailed. So after that, I knew where my strengths could lie, or what were, like, I had a brief idea of how exactly each section is going to be like. Then eventually, once I was done with, like, say 2/3 of all the sections, I started giving mocks, and I focused a lot on analysis. I did not give many mocks because, I'll be honest, I don't think there is any platform that provides you with mock examinations that are an actual like a replica of how the CAT exam is. It's only previous year papers that can help you out with that. So, like, if at all you're like just too obsessed with the score, it's only the previous year paper that's going to give you a fair idea of where you stand or what it is. But if you're doing it for practice, then all exams are like fairly similar. Then besides that, after the mock, so the thing was that I had TMU right before my CAT for 15 days. So I was hospitalized there. So of the 70 days, my 15 days were gone. So even after that, I was like struggling to sit even for an hour. So my major focus was just to be able to sit for 3 hours and complete the exam altogether. So once that started, my major focus was 3 hour mock, and then immediately after that, I would sit and analyze it. Immediately after that, because that's when I know exactly what approach I took and how I was thinking for each and every question, and what could have been a better alternative, and where exactly was I slacking? Did I carry baggage from the previous section? So the best time to analyze a mock is right after you give the mock. It gets quite exhausting, but I think that's the best way to go about it.
Right. And at what point did you actually start taking mocks? Were you done with your entire syllabus when you started?
I was not. I mean, initially the frequency was very less when I had not completed my entire syllabus, but I was fairly done with around 2/3 of all the sections.
Okay, got it. Absolutely. At this point, we have Gurpreet asking, okay, Hardik is curious, what was the name of your coaching institute?
Oh, so I'm from Nagpur, and there was this local coaching institute which was like fairly good. It was HR Mentors. It was very nice, and they helped me out. Once I got my placement from campus, even I slacked off a bit. But then there were these people, these faculties from that place who were like, "What are you doing? Why can't we see you in prep?" Like I'm there, and then I again buckled up and like did all of it. So yeah, pretty nice people.
Okay, got it. Then we have Gurpreet asking, he's facing a lot of difficulty in preparing for algebra and modern math. Should I just go through the basic concepts of them, or do I need to go deep?
You have to start off with basics. Unless and until you have a clarity on that, you can't really go ahead. And one thing is, like, CAT is not an examination wherein you are tested. Oh, so tell me what amount of time does a tap take to fill the tank or anything. It's about your presence of mind. It's about how easily you're able to find the unknown. It's just the hunt of the unknown and nothing else. It's not excessively learn all the formulas. It's just how well you're able to perform in that 1 hour and just understand what exactly you're supposed to do, and just look for the unknown. That's it. You have to be present. That's the most important thing. You have to give your best. You can't be distracted. You need to give your undivided attention. You need to be focused, and that's what's going to take you ahead.
Got it. Next we have Nivedita asking, also can you hear me clearly if I talk like this, Nikita? Is this okay?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
So we have Nivedita asking, please give a detailed structure as to how to analyze a mock, as in solving the whole paper again, something like maintaining an Excel sheet, just randomly resolving. I really think it's a good idea to go into details, Nikita, because lots of people on InsideIIM as well, they come and tell us that analysis is important and spend X hours analyzing. So what do I do in those X hours? It's a real question here. I'll ask you to wait for a couple of minutes before we go there.
I think your audio is a bit muffled.
Okay. Is this better?
Yeah, much better.
This takes more energy, but okay. Okay. So few questions we have is about, how did you ace DILR? Were the DILR sets natural to you? So let's do this way. You tell us where you stood in terms of VRC, DILR and Quant when you started.
All right. So VRC, though, I didn't understand the thing because, to be honest, like if you refer to different, like any time mock or any other mock, they tend to have like IMS or anything. They tend to have quite difficult RCs. And I was like, this is my understanding of the RC. How do I like ensure that I understand the exact thing what the author is trying to tell me? And I struggled with that a lot initially. But it was eventually through the previous year papers that I realized that, okay, these are the legit ones. I need to focus more on these. So for VRC, I would strongly recommend that you go through the previous year papers. And besides that, one thing that you really need to understand is trade-offs. So something that really worked for me and also didn't work for me during the final exam was there was this one particular RC which was extremely difficult and super lengthy, and I had to take a call between that or all the para jumbles. And I decided to go for para jumbles, which were relatively easy that year. So that really helped me out and that really worked for me. So that was how VRC I fared well in VRC. And besides that, in terms of prep, it's more about having a good reading speed. You need to be able to at least read the entire passage when you're trying to solve it. That would be one. Besides that, it's just very basic paragrams and stuff that you need to practice. And comprehension is like you need to develop that sense of comprehension by reading more, or probably like discussing over it if that's exactly how you perceive things to be, what the author is trying to tell you. So just reading small articles, and also the length of the articles that you're reading, try and match it with the RCs. That way you're more prepared.
Absolutely. So what do you think about the Aeon articles that everyone talks about? They're more lengthy than the CAT RCs, as far as I understand.
Yes, they are. So, like in terms of reading, I started off with the things that I enjoyed, which were like basic, which were basic fictional stories. So I started off with that, and then eventually I ended up reading on and a little bit difficult stuff that might take some more understanding than usual, and also like expand my understanding of things, or just basic GK. So even that helped for interviews as well. So try and do that.
Yesterday I was, doing this art scene. It was completely based on pollination. Some opinion upon that, wind pollination, everything. And I had no idea what pollination was. I totally forgot about it. And so after doing that RC, I felt so confused. I went ahead, I Googled up what is pollination. it was so funny because something we teach in fourth grade. But then once I got the hang of it, and then I went back and read the essay, it was so clear to me. And I thought, knowing basics like these can be very helpful,
Yeah, and to be honest, there are so many concepts that I know of only because I just read it as an RC somewhere. Like even now, and I can go around having conversations about it because okay, at least I know what it is and what it entails. So like it's a good way to just like expand your knowledge bank.
Absolutely. So coming back to DILR, so you said VRC when you started, you had no clue. Then what about DILR? How good were you with DILR and quants when you started?
So one thing which I legit can't comment on is the strategy for DILR, because I started off, I was fairly good at it. And I mean, I tried to be better at it than I already was by adapting to strategies that were recommended, or they were like, I was told, try this. Every time I went against my like natural instinct, my score would drop. So I just didn't touch DILR. I was like, okay, this is too sacred to be played around with. I can't afford that. So I had to go with my natural instincts with DILR. Though, like, I feel something that really helped me get there was Sudokus and jigsaw puzzles. So I've been a person who would solve a Sudoku every day, and like I obsess over jigsaw puzzles. I'll solve like 1,000 pieces jigsaw puzzles, floor puzzles with my friend. So that's like few things that I did, which I feel help you with that. It's not direct as an impact, but somewhere it does help.
Right. Got it. Okay, awesome. So finally, so now we understand where you were. What about quants? Were you? It's like typical stereotype is engineer must be good with math. Was that the case with you?
So I was someone who was just above average in all the three sections. So I didn't have a strong section as such. For quants, I feel I did put in effort. Like the major reason being that you have a lot of material available around quants, and it's like the most structured section is quant. So you tend to prepare more of it because okay, it's available. You can try it out. You can test, and there are a vast number of topics under it. So I ended up preparing more for quants. But yeah, and also the problem was okay. I'll talk about the final exam later.
No, it's okay. Please share whatever's coming to your mind.
So, as I said, like one thing that worked for me was question selection in VRC, and the exact thing that worked against me was in DILR, because there was this one particular, and I obsessed over puzzles. So I didn't want to do calculations and data interpretations. I wanted to solve the logical reasoning questions, and there was this one really tricky and nice question that I wanted to solve, and I was obsessing over it. I spent a good 15 minutes on it. Fine, thankfully finally I got it, because I was just not ready to leave it like that. And because of that, I ended up like taking a lot of time and skipping an easier question. And by the end of that section, I knew that I'll have to cover up for it in quants. So I had to start off with that exactly. Okay, I'll have to cover for DILR in quants. So that was the strategy that I went ahead with.
Got it. All right. So a couple of questions we have at this point, and I'll take them up. You let me know what you think quickly. So first is Roy asking, what were your academics?
Yeah, so I had a 10 CG in 10th. I had 86% in 12th science background, and I had a CG of 7.81 in engineering.
All right. All right. What was your scaled score section wise, if you remember?
I don't remember, to be honest. It was like 98 and 99 percentile. Score, okay, my score was 169. Yeah, my score was 169.
Got it. Next is, did you follow only the materials given by your coaching institute, or did you follow some other books suggested by them? So you said you followed their material plus Arun Sharma ka LOD1. Anything else?
Um, no, actually, that was it. And like some more material that was given to me, which was like not really as a branded material as such.
Right, right, got it. Vinod is saying hi, Oshin. Hi, Vinod. What should be the structured approach for a beginner or somebody who's just started thinking of attempting CAT?
Okay, at this point of time, one thing that I could suggest is just go with the previous year papers, like practice mocks, because right now, starting from concepts and building upon that would be difficult. So, like start off with mocks. I didn't follow this approach, but I know of many people who prepared for CAT only through mocks and nothing else. So that strategy could work if you are like planning to start right now.
Got it. But if they don't know the concepts, how do you think the mocks are going to help?
So I assuming that they have a very basic understanding of things. Like you can go through the basic concepts once and then just start with previous year papers and mocks. But like having the structured approach that I took, which was like spread over a span of a year, that would be difficult.
Absolutely.
Like I'm not saying that it's impossible. It's just that the strategy would be very different than what I followed.
Next, we have Krishna asking optimum time in your view to solve a quant question, RC, complete RC and a DILR set.
Okay, that varies. So that varies a lot. So when people actually talk about analysis, that is something how I did it. Like if you solve a particular mock on any platform, you usually get that analysis wherein you get the difficulty level of the question, the average time taken for that question, the minimum time taken for that question. So you need to look at all those parameters. You need to see where you stand, and you need to see, okay, this was supposed to be done that, and this was a question that I should have skipped, but I continued doing that. So those are a few points that you need to note, and then you kind of understand your strengths and weaknesses, and also sections that you obsess over. That is very important because you kind of tend to take it on yourself. Okay, like the way I did during the ILR. Okay, if I'm not able to, if I can't do this, then who will? And then I have to sit and solve this puzzle. So you can't really obsess over a question or take it upon yourself. You have to let go of it. Don't be possessive about questions. Yeah, just
don't own up questions. Let them be.
Yes, exactly. You need to disassociate yourself with those questions.
Okay, got it. Then we have Uday asking, is it compulsory to read the editorials of a newspaper, or we can go for a novel or something like that?
I started off with novels. I started off with fiction novels. I read Dan Brown. I read Amish Tripathi. I enjoyed mystery. So I started off with that. And once I got a hang of reading, I could like then switch to a better, I won't say a better book, but like a book that would give me more knowledge that could be useful eventually.
Important to be politically correct. Okay, so if we have a trade-off, so because we have limited time right now, and there's obviously a trade-off between whatever we do in terms of CAT prep, do you think solving RC is going to be more helpful at this point than reading novels if we have limited time, which we do?
Yes, I would say so because you really need to get to the habit of reading that particular length of passage sooner, faster. So, like more than RCs, if you even read just articles which are of similar length, that would be helpful. And previous year papers, you can always bank on those.
Okay. So you took CAT in which year again, Nikita?
I took CAT in 2019.
Got it. So any question related to CAT 2020 would be irrelevant for you. I'll okay. Or no, I mean, sorry, too general of a question. Okay, Yash is just attacking our chat box with the same question. Yash, could you please not do that, but it will be helpful. I'll pick up the rest of the life questions in a bit, and let's go back to your preparation strategy. If it was you preparing in the next 3 months, the current 3 months, 2.5 months, how would you go about it? What are some checks you definitely do before taking a mock test? You said you will build up your basics as far as quant is concerned. For LRDI and VA, what would you do?
Okay. So for VA, that as I said, it would be like one would be developing my vocab. So one thing that I did was word par made easy. That's like everybody's Bible. So that's one thing I did. And even in this quants and DILR, like something that worked for me was doing mental calculations. Whenever I had time traveling or something, I would just be like, when I'm around my friends, I would like, okay, challenge me, ask me any two-digit into two-digit multiplication. And like just getting that strategy of, okay, how fast am I able to calculate mentally? Just having a few formulas on your fingertips or making compendiums. Yeah, I am a nerd. I am a studious nerd. I would just go around making colorful compendiums of all formulae and everything.
Wow.
So that's what I did.
Yeah, so guys, this is what it takes. This is what it takes.
You got to be that goofy nerd.
No, just kidding. But like lots of people have done it in different ways. This is just Nikita today we're talking about. So in that perspective, don't take it too seriously. I'll come to the next bit, which is Nikita for RILR. Is regular practice, in your view, the trick to go about it? Is there any other concept building kind of thing that you think is going to be helpful in DILR?
I don't think there is any concept as such. There are different types of questions and they're very like usual, and there are different types of visual representations that you need to know of or how to read them. So you just need to go through all types of questions that are out there in terms of, as I said, the visual representations. And even besides that, like there are very specific, like, okay, you will have questions around games, and then you'll have questions around seating arrangement or just some blood relation or direction, something of that. So just cover all of it, like cover a few questions of that. You don't really need daily prep for DILR. For DI, as I suggested, a little bit of calculation could be helpful. Also know when to use the calculator. I'm not entirely against using the calculator, but just know when you should invest the time of actually opening and entering the numbers.
Okay, so a lot of our viewers at this point, they take up sectional tests, they take up mock tests. Before we go into the mock test analysis bit, what's your quick thought on sectional tests, their frequency, importance, way to go about them?
So sectional tests was something that I did in the initial half before I started with like full length mocks. Once I started with full length mocks, I didn't really focus much on sectional tests because I was more of working on my ability to actually do DILR after I'm exhausted doing the ARC. So that also creates a lot of impact and also changes the score relatively. So that's why I didn't really focus much on sectional tests. But initially, when my prep for other sections wasn't done, and I really wanted to like solve more questions on DILR, I would just take up a sectional test, and they're like quick. No, okay, so I have half an hour. What do I do? Like I'll just sit and give. So yeah.
Absolutely. And now that the duration has been reduced, so the sectional tests are, so we have like in very many different varieties. For example, at InsideIIM, we released a mock series. So it's 18-minute mocks, but it's not even half an hour. And then for all the sections, you have RC, LRDI, Quant, you have. So whenever you have the little bit of time, you use those mocks and you build your skill, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're like quick payoffs. You
Exactly.
just sit and like in 18 minutes you have your concepts revised.
So that's a good idea. I think whenever we're not taking mocks, let's say we have our gap days. I think it's going to be a good way to keep in touch with all the concepts we've learned.
Exactly. Yeah. Best way to revise, I think. So one really good way to revise is to actually sit and try and recall what all you have learned,
Right.
rather than actually reading that, having that right in front of your eyes and going through it. It's just like mentally try and recall what all you read and how you derive that formula. Like in geometry, all the formulas are just like interconnected. So you like go from one to one to one to one. Okay, this, then this. So you can just sit and like go through it rather than actually having it right in front of your eyes, because like it's then it's there. You don't really know if it's in your memory or not.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one thing, if there's one takeaway you guys will take from today's video, it is like very, very actionable. Start taking many mocks. Give those 18 minutes. Do it every day. Do it, if not every day, in your break days. Whenever you feel like you don't know what to do, take a mock and then learn from it, I think.
just
Yeah.
one thing.
Yeah.
One thing about like full length mocks is they're very ceremonial. Like for me, they used to be. I would like ask the entire family to be quiet and like tell them I'm sitting for a mock. Nobody disturbs me for 3 hours and nobody says a word. So, and the thing with sectional mocks is that they're just like, okay, you get time, you do it. So they're like in your everyday schedule, can be incorporated in everyday schedule and can be done at any point of time. Like for full length mocks, I would ensure I'm not exhausted. I have a fresh mind. I would sit like with the full capacity. Ki, I can sit for 3 hours and give my best. That's only when I would actually, because I'm giving away one entire previous year paper and I wouldn't want to waste that.
Right. Absolutely, absolutely. So anyway, so coming to the point about mocks, let's take it from here, Nikita. How did you analyze the mock after you were done with it? And let's just go into it in as much detail as we possibly can. Let's say you took a mock, it's finished now. Now we have 2 hour mock, so the 2 hours are done. Now what do you do?
Okay, so first is I take a 10-minute break once I'm done with
Oh,
that because I know the score and then I would like sit and think, is this a good score? What is it about? I would go around, walk a bit, come back, and then I would go through the go to the platform where usually you have okay, the difficulty levels of the question, the time taken by you, the minimum time taken, the average time taken, and then also the section of that particular question. So now you can bucket those. Okay, so this was geometry. This was my performance in geometry. This was my performance in algebra. This was me in arithmetic. Then I know where my strength lies. So like with say 6-7 marks, I can see a pattern. Okay, I have been faring pretty well in geometry. I need to work on say algebra or arithmetic. Like I couldn't do well in mixture and allegations. I still can't. So like I knew what I had to stay away from. As much as you need to know your strengths, you also need to know your weaknesses. So for that, like with that analysis, I could see, and if I was doing good, were people doing better? Was there scope of improvement? And if I could see, okay, the things could have been done in a better way, or even questions wherein I should have opted for like just do it through options and I did not, and I went with the conventional way. So the thing with engineers is that they are used to conventional ways and they're very fast with the conventional ways. So even if they do that way, they're like able to do it quickly. So they don't really offer the tips and tricks or anything as such. So that was something that I did, but eventually adapted towards with those tips and tricks as well. So that was one thing. Then in VARC, I would specifically focus on the time I took to read, then also question selection. Question selection was a major thing that I focused on in DILR as well as VARC. Then also you need the way I told you, like I realized that I obsessed over LR and I skipped DI even if they were easy questions. So you need to know how you behave. You need to like sit and understand, look, observe all those patterns to realize what precautions you'll have to take on the D-Day. Because only when you're working through your strengths, you'll be able to achieve true excellence. That is something I learned in ID recently. So that you need to ensure that you're working through those, and for that you need to know them. So you really need to analyze what exactly and how exactly you're approaching things, and more than that, your approach around it. So like how are you reading the question, what data are you noting down, how much of pen pencil are you using, how much of mental calculations are you doing, what is taking more time, how can you reduce time, where do you need to reduce time. Like if you are like a fairly optimum level at some on some section, you don't really need to work on it more, because there's only this much that you can do per section rather than work on another section where you're lagging. So you just need to understand those and go about it. Another thing in VRC was, yeah, so uh, people who kind of start reading with fiction have this habit wherein they're too engrossed in the story. So they just want to know what happens iske samne, and then what they'll do is they'll just skip through sentences, skip through words, not really focus on what that particular sentence meant, because they're getting a sense of what the story is or how the storyline is following. So they would just do that. That is something that you need to avoid during ARC, because you really need to understand what exactly every sentence means. Or also, but then another thing where the fiction thing helps is you kind of tend to understand. If you don't know the word, you with the sentence you can just understand the essence of what the person is trying to convey. So even if your vocab is not that strong, you have developed this thing wherein just by reading the sentence and not knowing all words of it, you can just derive the meaning of that sentence, and that also works in VRC, because eventually it's just the comprehension based questions that are asked. So how well are you able to comprehend or understand what the author is trying to say is holds more importance, more than the vocab or each and every word.
Absolutely, I get a sense of your thoughts. I'll take you back to the bit where you'd taken a 2-hour mock test and you'd seen your that's the hypothetical situation we were in, right? You'd seen the average time taken by you, by others, section-wise performance. So broad ideas, broad trends in your mock performance, right? Now what do you do? So this takes what, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
No, this takes time as much as it took for me to give the mock. It's like legit 2 hours of mock and 2 hours of analysis because I go through each and every question.
Okay. Wow. This is so basically you're not solving any question at this point.
No, I'm not solving, but I'm revising exactly what my approach was during that question, what my thought process was during that question, and what was the thought process that people were recommending for that. Like, did it match, or how did I solve it? Did I solve it using pen and paper? Did I solve it mentally? Did I do it through options?
Right.
What could I have done? So it's in order to understand how I behave around a particular set of questions, I actually need to know how I took it, like how I perceived it. And like, was I scared looking at a question? Because so I realized that mixtures and allegations isn't something I can do. I just like I panic the moment I see. I'll try and do the cross. I'll try do all the techniques. I have good notes. I understand the concepts. Yet looking at those questions, I just won't be able to solve it. And somehow it was like it was just ingrained in my mind that no, I don't know mixtures and allegations. So no matter how much I tried, I just couldn't get that. So I no, okay, I'll stay away from this on the final day. It would be my last priority to solve a mixture and allegation question. And at the same time, these kind of this can also work as a bias though, because if there is a super easy mixture and allegation question, I would skip that.
Right.
So that's the kind of thing you need to develop, wherein okay, you're able to spot that even if that section is something which is my weakness, but it is an easy question and I can attempt it. So that is something that comes when you give a lot of marks and you analyze them and you know exactly how you behave around a type of question.
Got it. So we had another cat open, Nikita, who he came and shared that after completing a mock, he'd sit and solve all the questions again, regardless of whether he got them right or wrong. So I'm curious, what was your take on going about? So also many students have this experience where after taking the mock, they say, "Oh, we were able to solve this question completely after the mock and couldn't do it, during the mock." So all of this happens. How did you go about it? Let's say you couldn't do a question in the mock, or it was a DILR set, or maybe an RC, whatever you couldn't do. How do you go about those bits?
So for the questions that I did not attempt, so my first thing would be first focus would be the question that went wrong, because I felt I could do it and I still couldn't do it. So I focused on them first. I would go about like looking at what topic they came from. Were those my strengths? Was I overconfident while trying to attempt it? Did I just skim through the options and attempted what I was thinking that at that point of time? And then if it is a conceptual thing that I didn't know of, I would note it down. And if it was something that I knew and I was just like not solving it with focus and just silly mistake that I did, then yeah, then what? Then I would be very stupid. Don't do it the next time.
Okay, got it.
And the next would be like focusing on what are the sections that I am like not attempting altogether. So that yeah, like majorly those used to be good calls because you need to make the trade-off. You can't solve all the questions and you don't need to. So that was something that I focused on. Did I skip any easy question? That would be my major point of attention. If at all I'm skipping an easy question, so question selection is something that comes out of mock analysis very well. So that is a skill that you build through mock analysis.
And what would be your answer to the question that I can only do X sets in DILR? So some people would ask you, "हम से एक ही set or I want to do more. We are only able to do 3. We want to do whatever." So how do they make that increase in DILR? How do you go about it?
So it's more about so I would spend like the first minute skimming through all the sets that I have so that I know, okay, so this is like there's a web chart, there's a seating arrangement question, there are 2 DI questions, I see one on games, I see one on that. These are my strengths, and this seems small. And then whenever I see like 3 or 4 graphs or charts in one thing, that's the last question that I would want to do because information is split in multiple tables. So that is how you kind of know. I would just note down, okay, I am going with, I'll create a priority sequence for myself right in the beginning of DILR. Okay, I'm starting with, I'll go with 3, 2, then 4, and 1. And then it depends on how well I'm trying to do. As I said, even I got stuck on that one particular question which I shouldn't have. So yeah, it kind of depends on the particular day of how you're going about it, but creating a priority sequence on the basis of your strengths for DILR is something that really helps.
Got it. Okay, so time for the big revelation. What do you think was the let's just go again structurally here. When you learned that you got your IMA admit, what was it like?
It was exactly like this. What had happened, I went to my room, I was having my lunch, and okay, so I got a notification that IIMA results are out. I was like, okay, I don't want many people around, less people to disappoint that way. Then I just sneakily went and looked at my results, and I was like, oh shit, what? I got through. And then I just yelled what's say, and my parents came and were like, what's wrong? And then I just showed them the phone. They were like, I'm not wearing specs. Like, I don't know, read this. Then my brother came in and he read it out loud. And my parents were like, oh, nice, congratulations. And they went back doing their homework.
Nice.
Yeah, that was it. Yes, that's how
parents?
celebrations are done at my place. But even
Wow.
I wasn't able to digest that fact for a good amount of time. But something that really, I say, just mellowed everything down was IMB results, which came hours later, and I was straight away rejected. I was like, okay, fine.
I love how when you were sharing, no, your first reaction was when the results were out. I thought, me, I got through.
Yeah, I see. Are you sure?
Okay, got it. And then, so from there on to, so you would have taken all these different interviews, different B schools. What was like in your mind? Where did you see yourself going that particular year?
So after my interviews were done, I was confident about Calcutta because my Calcutta interview was just amazing. It was borderline a gossip session. And it was just so good that I was sure I was going to get through. So I was kind of banking on Calcutta, and I wanted Bangalore, but then my profile wasn't really good enough and I didn't have work ex then. So I knew that Bangalore was like kind of a stretch. Ahmedabad, so I didn't even think of. I was like Calcutta and I'm happy. And
So,
I
yeah.
would have gone for Calcutta, like a pretty great institute. I would have loved to.
So did you got your admit from Calcutta, right? Okay. And what else? What other all other IIMs you would have got a
Yeah, I got all admits except for Kozhikode.
okay.
And I didn't even know about that for so long. Just recently, when I was doing my CV activity and everything, I kind of found out that I did not convert Kozhikode.
Okay, got it. And then so CAT was done, interviews were done, IMA admit you got. Now you decided to not join IMA. Please tell us why.
So, as I like, it's pretty evident from my preparation that I wasn't really aware of what an MBA entails, what was there for me, what I wanted to do with my MBA, or where exactly I want to, where exactly I wanted to take it ahead. So I felt that I needed some more clarity in terms of how I would want to utilize these 2 years at a B school. So there comes the option of deferment, which is the big reveal. So the actual science behind why I did not take IMA was the fact that I deferred my admission by a year because I had a job offer. I had a pretty decent job offer from Principal Financial Group, wherein I worked as an analyst. So Principal Financial Group is a company, US-based company that works in asset management. So I kind of worked there for 7 months. And then after my year of deferment, wherein I worked for 7 months, traveled around a bit, learned a few stuff about myself and explored and took risks because I had the backing of IMA and I had that time wherein I could do anything and everything that I wouldn't have normally because okay I could stretch myself, I could go out of my comfort zone, and I did all of it. I tried my hands at a startup, I traveled around, I did anything and everything and everything stupid, and I failed at a lot of things, but like yeah, probably that was necessary. And so that was a really cool year wherein I learned a lot and kind of was able to not exactly realize what I wanted to do, but get a direction. I explored the functions like so I did not know about consulting, or I did not know about guesstimates till the time I sat for my interviews and like placement interviews at college, in my undergrad college. And that was the first time in the interview that I was asked a guesstimate, and that was the first time I was solving it or had even heard of a guesstimate. And I was just questioning, how can I tell you that? Like, how can I tell you that number? I mean, there are so many different units available. So the question was, so how many shampoos? I'm a shampoo brand, and how many number of shampoos do you think I would need to would Nagpur need in a year or in a month or something of that sort? And then how do I tell you that legit needs like there are salons, they use different units, then there are different kinds of people. There are people who just use soap on their head. There are people who go and get small pouches every Sunday when they need it. There are people who stock like bulk of shampoos. How do I go about it? That was I legit all I did was, how do you tell that? How do you tell that? And probably those were the questions that they wanted to hear, and it was not the final answer. That was the first guesstimate that I ever solved. And then
People put soap in their head.
yeah, like there are people who just directly use the soap. They don't really bother to go and get shampoo and everything. And then I had to tell them on the basis of Nagpur's population, which I didn't know. I was like, can I just scale it? Can I tell you on a scale? If say the population of Nagpur was 100, so how many people do what all? They were like, no. Okay, what do I do now? But yeah, that was me asking. But then somebody like someone has curly hair, they would want a sulfur free shampoo, a silicone free conditioner, and do you know the variety that's available out there? And what variety are you talking about? Which kind of shampoo are you selling? How am I going to tell you that? How am I going to tell you that? I just barged with questions.
This
That's
sounds like a war. Did they survive your questions?
I did not know, and thankfully, weirdly enough, I was able to convert that interview. I still like don't understand how I got that job, but yes, I did with these questions.
Congratulations. Yeah, that's wow. It's just like more interesting than your anime story, to be honest. But coming back to it, so you deferred your admission, and then 1 year later you join IMA. Right now, you'd be in your first year, if I'm right.
Yes.
Yeah. And how is IMA treating you? How do you feel after all that exploration that you've done now that you've come here? What's the experience like?
Actually, it's pretty good. I mean, it's a mixed bag of feelings, to be honest. There's anything and everything, and it's overwhelming at times, and sometimes there's so much to do that you sit and think, where do I start? And it's just too much. It's too much and at its best. And then there's some nice people around, and it's fun. It's fun. It gets fun. You have to collaborate and do things. You can't do things by yourself. Then you need people to legit wake you up in the morning for classes. And thankfully I have a good neighbor who would wake me up every morning for my classes. Thank you, Neha.
Okay. Good shout out you took out 2 seconds. Awesome. So finally, if it was, you preparing, Nikita, and it was the last 3 months of your preparation, what are some final tips that you would like to remind yourself of? Think of this answer for our viewers, because a lot of times, when the mock scores aren't very high. Also, before that, did you target IMA when you were preparing? Did you think in your mind, I want to go to IMA and so I'm going to solve questions? What was your mindset then?
So the crazy thing about this, that something really that actually worked out for me was this. So I had come to know about IIFT's international specialization when I was prepping, and I was like, okay, this sounds cool. And eventually, if I wanna, so as a kid, I wanted to go and work for foreign services. I was sure that I want to work for foreign services. And I was like, if at all, even after an MBA, I feel like going towards that. This might be a good specialization to do. And it was like a niche thing, and it was like different from the crowd, and also not that ABC competition pressure and everything. So I was like, that's my thing. I'm going to work for that. And then, so I was kind of working towards that. And hence, I didn't know anything about how much percentile I would need to convert A, B, or C. I was totally unaware. I was so absent-minded about it. I didn't know think, okay, I'll need this much score gives this much percentile. I knew nothing. I just prepped and I gave the exam. without really looking at what result it's gonna give me or anything. Once I got like the CAT percentile and everything, then I was like, okay, what do I aim for? So I was like, okay, A, B, C. If that's the rank, I'll go for B, because then it's not even like it's the best thing, and it's not even like it's the worst thing. And then I don't feel like too entitled to have achieved oh wow, so good. And then I don't even feel like a loser. So always go for the second best thing. That was this weird philosophy in my mind. I don't know why.
Wow.
I'll just go for the second best thing in the room. So I was aiming for Bangalore, and I ended up converting all except for Bangalore and Kozhikode, which
Yeah.
I still don't understand how and why.
Very weird to me too. I mean, you get into it, you don't get into it. But perhaps something to do with the weightage they put on different factors of your profile.
Or probably they just didn't like me.
Okay, Nikita. So yeah, 10 minutes to go. Anything and everything that you'd like to share with our viewers, that's like a must do in the last 2.5 months of preparation.
So one thing, as I would reiterate, don't obsess over your mock scores, because no platform would be like able to give you the exact simulation of the CAT examination. Do those for practice. Mocks are really good for practice, but not for you to get obsess over score or where you stand. So hence, I would really suggest against it, especially at this time when you have to build your confidence and like just believe in yourself that yes, you'll be able to fare well on the final day. And so, as I said, something that actually worked for me was that I didn't have any pressure on the final day. I had dengue beforehand, so my parents were like, just at least just go and sit for the exam, because I had considered skipping the exam altogether, and I had a backup as my job. So I just went and sat for the exam without any pressure, and that was something that let me be calm and composed throughout, and I wasn't really panicking about, oh, this is like do or die situation for me. So it's just one paper, and you need to treat it like one. So just that way it kind of works out. It's no rocket science. It's just you need to be present, you need to put in your best, like in terms of prep, and those 2 hours for you right now. So you just need to put in your best. That's all that is needed. Nothing more, nothing less.
All right, Nikita, thank you so much for sharing this. I think the one thing I'd like to remind everybody at this point is Nikita used to prepare, like she used to be very thorough when she used to prepare. I think this is an important part of the summary, Nikita, because there are a lot of people who prepare for a very limited time with very limited effort, and then they score very high marks. And somehow the message that they share in their stories is even if you do limited things, you can do this. But I personally disagree, because I feel it depends a lot on where you stand. If your basics are you already here, no, if you're doing a little bit more and you do it, that's your special case. But for everybody else, that may not be the case. You would know kitna weakness hai, kahan pe where you stand. And I feel like when you solve all those questions and you exhausted that prep material, that's you basically saying hey, it's okay, I don't know everything, maybe I don't know how much I know, so I'm just going to prepare and then I'm going to learn. And I think that's a huge takeaway from your story, because it worked so well for you, right? All that preparation, all that time and energy you put in on the exam day. I'm sure you'd have felt confident as well, not like something very, very scary or something that's a huge mountain to conquer.
Yeah, actually, because like I had prepared for a year. So even though like I missed 15 days before exam, I wasn't really under the pressure that I missed 15 days, because I knew I had prepared for a year. And like these 15 days aren't really gonna make a difference for me.
Absolutely. So that's I think very, very inspiring. Thank you so much for joining me today for this conversation, Nikita. It was lovely speaking with you. Very fun and yet so inspiring. It was really great chatting with you. And to everybody else who was watching, I hope this was helpful, and I hope you had fun watching the conversation. I hope you're preparing well. If not, you can start now. And all the best. Good luck. Thank you so much for watching.
Thanks a lot, Oshin. This is amazing.
Thanks so much. Bye bye.